Welcome back to Sports Talk with Puckett and Pontzer here on 88.3 WXOU. We're going to lead this off with some Spartan talk because, let's face it, they earned it over Michigan's performance this week. They won 55-17 against Youngstown State on Saturday, moving to 3-0 on the season against three cupcakes. One handled more well than the other two. But you know what? They put up 55 points. Last week I said Connor Cook shouldn't play. Boy, was I wrong. 202 yards passing and 4 touchdowns for Cook. Just played really well. 15-22 on the day, no picks, and a 9.2 average per pass, which is very, very good. Defense was tremendous as usual, only allowing the 17 points on the day and none in the fourth quarter. Just a all-out, really impressive performance from the Spartans. Good to see heading into Notre Dame.
I would completely agree, and I would say out of the Big Ten, really, they were the only team, maybe outside of Ohio State took care of California, to really kind of show up on Saturday.
Yep.
You look at the scores. I mean, Nebraska got blown out by UCLA. Indiana took care of Bowling Green, so it's whatever. And then you have Central Florida beat Penn State in Happy Valley. Washington beat Illinois in Champaign. And Notre Dame beat Purdue at Purdue. I mean, it wasn't a very great weekend for the Big Ten. Now, granted, Michigan State was probably playing the easiest of that slate, but even Minnesota, only beats Western Illinois by 17. Western Illinois, I remember them coming to the arena. That's the level of competition that many Big Ten teams are playing right now. And I know we're going to get to Michigan in a second, and their thrilling performance over a zip squad. So, regardless, Michigan State. I think this was definitely needed.
Yeah, it's a great confidence boost heading into your first actual game, and they found their quarterback. So
we talked, we've talked about the Lions, and we're going to talk about the Tigers soon. I mean, if you were to compare them all, even we're talking about Michigan, of all the teams, they were the most in need of not just a win because they had beaten their past two opponents, obviously, but a convincing show. When you're playing teams like the State's playing, you should be winning by 30 or 40 points. And, their defense has certainly stepped up to task, but their offense has been nowhere to be found. I mean, it just is incredible.
And I think their offense is somewhere in between these performances. I don't think they're nearly as bad as they were the first two games, and I don't think they're anywhere close to putting up 55 points on a quality opponent.
And you had some guys step up, obviously, Connor Cook, and hopefully this can maybe solidify that quarterback position, because I think obviously, quarterback's the most important position on the field. I mean, no question. And you've had this rotation. You've had O'Connor, and you've had Maxwell, and you've had Cook, and then you've had Damian Terry, waiting in the wings. And D'Antonio, I know you publicly called him out on our last week's show. You pinned a lot of the blame for their woes on him. And I know you have Narduzzi or whatever. You got the coordinator. But D'Antonio needs to pick a guy and go with him, and hopefully Cook can, I don't expect him to have 4 touchdown passes against Big Ten teams, but you would like to see some consistency from that position. I mean, they're the leader of your offense. You don't have Le'Veon Bell to hand the ball off to. You don't have guys like B.J. Cunningham to throw the ball to. You have to make do with what you have, but obviously most importantly is that quarterback position, and Connor Cook finally stepped out amongst this circus, really. It had become of 4 guys, maybe going to take snaps. Hopefully he can be your guy going forward.
Right, and like I said, good to see going into the Notre Dame game. All right, let's switch to Michigan, who we're going to talk about second because they were awful.
Right, and but I think we're going to spend a little more time on this one.
On what? Michigan?
On Michigan.
Okay. Do you want to lead it off?
Well, like I said, I was in Mackinac Island. I was with some... both of us went to the same high school, but I was like a chaperone on a trip there with a friend of mine. It was a good time.
We don't care. Okay.
But what I'm saying is I was there for the weekend, and College Football was on, and I caught a lot of the Alabama-Texas A&M game. I watched a lot because it was a big game. But Michigan kind of, I wasn't going to be tuned in for the Michigan-Akron game. I was walking around the island, obviously, but I peeked my head into a restaurant. We were eating lunch there, and I noticed it was 7-3 at halftime, and Akron had hit a post. It was almost 7-6 at halftime, and I thought in the back of my head, I was like, I remember looking at the lines, and they were favored by like 38 points.
Yep.
And I remember many pundits telling you to take the over.
Oh,
they were like, it's going to be 63
Hey now, this is Michigan.
We just beat Notre Dame. I don't know if you heard, but Gardner wears 98 now, and that's how many points they're going to score a game. Like, it was incredible. They just was the all-time high confidence after they beat Notre Dame. Obviously, it was a big game. I think you take all of that, erase it. You take whatever you took from your Central Michigan win, erase that, and I don't know what to think of this game. And, you talk about Michigan State probably being in between. Obviously, I think they're going to perform probably in between their Notre Dame game and obviously in between this. But for you to play at home against Akron, who Akron is at the lower end of the MAC. They're not even, you're not playing like...
when the last time Akron won a road game?
I texted you that.
2008.
I texted you. I thought that was... I love stats, and I saw that, and there's one of those things I could not believe that the fact that they have not won on that means you mean to tell me that all these students playing on the field have never won a road game.
If they had lost that game, do you think it was worse than Appalachian State and Toledo?
See,
in my opinion, yes. See, Appalachian State was a top team for D2 or whatever they were.
That happened, and you end up beating Florida that year later in the year.
And so Toledo was like okay,
right? And Michigan was highly ranked that time. I still think that the Appalachian State will live in infamy forever.
Oh yeah,
because it was the season opener. They were like number 3 in the nation. I don't think you can top that, especially like at least you've heard of Akron I mean, people know where Akron. Like Appalachian State, like where is that? Like who the heck is it? This, however, when you're favored by 38 points and it takes like a miracle to win basically, and Akron has the ball at the 1 yard line with time left on the clock. And, I'm going to ask you this, but I was watching that game. I saw 7-3, and I was like, I can't believe this. And then Akron takes the lead in the third quarter. I saw on Twitter. So as I was walking with a friend, I poked my head in some bar there on Mackinac, and it was kind of fun. I was break this down for you. There was a lot of people there obviously on vacation. Not as big as, in July when that place is hopping, but all these people, and they were all closet Michigan fans. It was hilarious because people were like talking the game with me, and people would walk by and ask the score because there's a lot of people, and they would say, oh, it's score, and you guys were like freaking out, and you'd say, wow, Michigan's up by 4, and they're like, who are they playing? Akron.
Yeah.
And it was a kind of a fun environment because all these people, there were some people cheering for the upset, but the majority were cheering for Michigan, and they were like biting their nails because they got the ball on the 1 yard line. This, I said to you, they still won, but it's not obviously more embarrassing than losing. But this is just, it was a huge embarrassment. And I think you take all that momentum from Notre Dame and you just reverse it. They obviously are going to move down in the rankings, not as bad as they would if they lost, but this team's going to go to Connecticut next week, and if they would have put that performance in against Connecticut, you're going to lose. If they put that performance in against any Big Ten team, whether it's Ohio State or if it's Illinois, you're going to lose. And I just, I know we broke down the schedule and you expect Michigan to be 7-0. I would question before the Michigan State game. I would question that. And I'm, between us, I'm not the college football guy, but what I saw on Saturday was just embarrassing. And I'm going to finally let you talk here in a second. The guy who, for me, didn't do anything was Mr. Devin Gardner. The pick 6 he had, I think I was just like, ha, 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 ha. It was incredible. He threw it right to the guy. Like, there was nobody there. It was an attempted screen thing, and he looked at him. It wasn't like one of those plays where the quarterback thinks the running back's going to be there. It was, he, saw him, cocked his arm, and then was like, here you go. It was just incredible. And Michigan needs to do something because like I said, if they give that performance against any Big Ten team, they're not going to come out with a W.
I think a lot of the game against Akron was as a result of winning the game against Notre Dame, but that doesn't make it any less acceptable.
No.
Michigan should be absolutely embarrassed for what they put out there on Saturday.
And I like how some players, they were at like a little pep rally or whatever, and some player asked, he said to all the fans there, they said, hey, how many of you stayed until the end? And everybody raised their hand because obviously it was a close game, and he said, good, that's what we wanted.
you know what? Shame on Lawan somebody who's been at that program, shame on Devin Gardner, shame on Jeremy Gallen, who actually played well against Notre Dame. What the heck are you doing out there? It's Akron.
And you know that not Rich. I was about to say Richard. You know Brady Hoke was worried when he was wearing a headset with more than 9 minutes to go in the fourth quarter.
Marcus Toussaint has played some big snaps for this team. What are you doing? What are you doing? It's an embarrassment. And you know what? All these Michigan fans, a win's a win, a win's a win. Okay. You should still be embarrassed.
No, it's not in college football. A win is not a win in college football.
Right.
It's one thing if, you look at the big game on Saturday, that Texas A&M Alabama. However you win that game and however it comes, it's an SEC game, two big teams, marquee players, obviously Johnny Football, A.J. McCarron, Heisman candidates. You take a win in that, however you get it, whether it's 3-0 or if it's 31-30. Michigan, though, people are predicting them literally to win by 60 points. This is Akron. This is a preseason game. And you have all this, you're absolutely right. You have all this confidence from the Notre Dame win. And whether you're aided by penalties or not, we kind of both agree on that. They still played well enough to win that game, and they should have won that game.
You know what? We're going to focus here on Devin Gardner because
I completely agree.
He had his name in the headlines after the Notre Dame game.
Changes the number,
right, people
gets
are
the excitement, right?
And you know what? He did play really well against Notre Dame. He did.
Absolutely. Except for the one big mistake.
Right, and he will make a mistake like that every game. I hold true to that.
But he was able to erase that. We talked about what Stafford could have done the first. He was able because he won the drive.
No, but that doesn't have anything to do with it. Regardless, Devin Gardner is not a great quarterback.
What I'm trying to make my point is he was able to erase all that, especially that terrible pick to the defensive lineman that should have been a safety, then all of a sudden turns into a touchdown. With that final drive, and whether it's aided by pass interference, but then everybody this week changes the number. Everybody's talking about how he won that game, which he did, and that's what I'm saying. It erased all that bad performance.
There was mock drafts that had him going in the first round of the NFL draft. People are in his ear. That's what I'm saying. You're leaving early. You're leaving early.
That's what I'm saying.
That is completely on Devin Gardner and on this coaching staff at the University of Michigan for letting that happen, because it's an absolute embarrassment to the school that you beat Akron by 4 points. That's a joke. And whether Brady Hill comes out next week and says that Manziel would be a backup at the University of Michigan, once again, it's completely ignorant. And games like this prove that nothing has changed. Nothing.
Devin Gardner, you look at his stat line. He goes 16 of 30, 248 yards, 2 touchdowns. And that's, okay. That's not great by any means. That's not a Heisman candidate. But the one that's 3 interceptions against Akron.
Right. Like I said, he will make a crucial mistake in every game. I guarantee he will. And that's why I picked Michigan State to beat them, because when you make a crucial mistake against Michigan State's defense, it's probably 7 points, and that's just how it is.
You look at Akron. Akron forced 4 turnovers. They only had 2 of their own. They only had 5 penalties. They had 418 yards to Michigan's 425, and they go 9 of 18 on third downs, while Michigan goes 3 for 10 against Akron. Like, who the heck is Akron? And fourth down, Akron misses that one at the end. And I say this to you, and I'm most certainly you would agree with this. Not that there was blatant pass interference, but the tight end kind of got tripped on that play. If the rules are flipped, absolutely.
You know
what
it reminded me of? Desmond Howard in the end zone against Michigan State, where they grabbed his foot.
I would say if it would have been incredible to see if the roles are reversed, if Akron's up by 4.
No doubt that's flagged.
And the tight end dropped. 150, whatever they have in there, 120,000 people start screaming at the ref. Absolutely,
no doubt.
And I saw that, and people in the bar a lot of people were like, "Wow, that was close." And I like how the Big Ten Network was like, "And that was it."
We're going to a post game. Michigan wins,
and I couldn't believe it. And that's not why Akron lost. Akron had a lot of chances to win there at the end, but Akron should not have a lot of chances to win. I heard the radio call, and it was like, and they win, and it's like the guy's really excited that they beat Akron. He should be really excited in the first quarter when they're up by 30.
But that's everything that Michigan's about. It's all about, who cares?
And you're absolutely right. Depending on Devin Gardner got outplayed by Akron's quarterback. This Pole guy, he goes 25 of 49 for 311, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. His quarterback rating is 42.1. Gardner's is 66.6. Gardner basically got outplayed by a guy who quarterbacks a lower tier team in the MAC. Now, I know the MAC produces guys like Pennington and Leftwich and Roethlisberger. Like, guys can come out of there and have successful careers, especially at the second level. But I just named you like 3. I can't think of any other MAC guys. And Devin Gardner got outplayed by a guy in his own place. It'd be one thing if it's one of those fluky games where, like, they're playing at Ford Field or they're playing at, I know they're going to Connecticut next week. You could maybe understand this to a point if it's at Connecticut. But this is Akron. Akron takes the bus up here. They're fully expecting to collect their paycheck of, $1 million and get it handed to them by 45 points. And instead, they nearly win the game.
Not only would Michigan lose against a Big Ten team if they play like this, they would have lost against almost any other MAC team.
It's incredible.
If you played like that against Central to beat them.
It's incredible that it's first quarter at 7-3, and I know that was what it was at halftime. And then Akron takes the lead in the third quarter. They take the lead in the fourth quarter. It's an embarrassment that Michigan had to win with 2 minutes and 49 seconds left in the game to go up by 4 to win against Akron. And we're stressing this point, but I could not believe it. And I watched the entire end of that game because it was fascinating. It's fascinating to see these Michigan fans be nervous about Akron. I understand, Notre Dame back and forth is one, and if it's a Big Ten opponent, even, Indiana once in a while can give you a game. Something like it, because it's Big Ten football, I can understand that. But it was a beautiful day in Ann Arbor. I mean, it was a great day for football all throughout the state. And there wasn't any lightning or rain or, anything. And Gardner wets the bed. Michigan's defense, absolutely. That final drive,
and people make the comparison, State didn't beat their opponents by much either. The thing is that Michigan State's defense played well in every game. Yep. And the stars on Michigan State's team are all on the defense.
And I would agree.
They're all on the defense.
That guy had another fumble recovery.
Right, Shalik Calhoun. And those stars played well even when the game was close. Right. So Michigan State played close games because of their offense, not because of their whole team.
They didn't have a quarterback. We just talked about that in our test. Michigan apparently does.
I just wanted to address that because it's always like, you can't talk about that. Well, look at what State did.
What I'm saying is they have a quarterback, and everybody, you're right, first round of the NFL, and he was able to erase his kind of so-so performance against Notre Dame with that final drive. Wins. Everybody's like, man, this is the guy. He beats Notre Dame on national television. Gardner's the real deal. All the stories that came out of that Notre Dame game were about Devin Gardner. That's what they were about.
Right, and what are they about now? Not Devin Gardner. It's just like, we won. Hey, now. And that's the biased Michigan media. That's ridiculous. But, okay, we got to talk about the Tigers. But the Michigan goes to Connecticut this week. I would think they'd win.
And if anything, I think this will wake them up. I think it's good for Michigan that this kind of performance happened early on.
Right.
And it didn't happen at the start of Big Ten play. It didn't, it happens now.
That's an 8 o'clock start on the road, so it's a night game. Michigan State plays Notre Dame at 3:30 in South Bend, so I picked that to be a loss early in the season, so I'm going to stick with that being a loss, even though Connor Cook did play well last week. I still think the Spartans lose that game.
And before we get to the Detroit Tigers, I know you said that biased Michigan media, where you will not find that is here at WXOU. And Puckett, you can be found on Twitter at Austin Puckett, and I can be found at Timothy_Pontzer. We're always on there talking sports. Last night, I actually retweeted at Austin Puckett. He had a nice little note about the Steelers' ineptness on offense. Now, Aaron Rodgers, in basically 3 quarters, had more offensive yards than the Steelers have had in 2 games. Regardless, we're going to talk about a team that has a little bit of offense in the Detroit Tigers.
A little bit, yeah.
Last week on the show, the lead was down to 4.5. And in 7 games, they had lost 4 games off their lead to Cleveland. And I said, obviously, next week, it was a week ago, I said, if they lose another 4 games, we'll be leading off the show with that. But they're back up to 6 games. Their magic number is like 8. Now, Cleveland, to their credit, has been hanging around. I personally believe they're going to catch Texas. Texas has lost like 15 to 20 games for some reason. Cleveland could very well be playing in that wild card game to have a chance to go to Boston. Cleveland's playing some great baseball, but the Tigers are doing enough. Getting some great pitching. Scherzer hasn't been able to get win number 20, but Porcello, since we last talked, he had 2 great starts. He had his first complete game ever, fantastic start. Then last night, he pitches 7 strong innings. He has like 6 strikeouts. They get the win. Verlander has been doing okay, and Anibal Sanchez has been really maybe pushing to be the number one starter on this staff in the playoffs, possibly. But the big story coming out of Tigers camp or whatever is the triumphant return of one Johnny Peralta. And in my opinion, I know I'm going to ask you this, is whether or not Johnny Peralta should come back. The fact is he is. Dave Dombrowski has said he is. Jim Leyland has said he is. And they might even play him in left field. He wouldn't just be a bench guy, but he could replace that platoon of Dirks, who's really been a disappointment this year, and Tuiasa Sopo, who's kind of been a revelation, except these past 2 weeks. Or not really but kind of a surprise, if anything. He's really produced, especially against left-handed pitching. So Peralta is playing in a position he has never played before, but you could add his bat to this playoff roster.
And yesterday, Infante got hurt.
Yep.
At second base.
In batting practice.
Right. So if that's necessary, I would rather Peralta at second base than Santiago or Perez.
I don't know where you put him, but I would like to have his bat in the lineup.
I do not play him at shortstop.
No, and Dombrowski has made that very clear. Iglesias is your guy, and Iglesias is going to bat ninth, and Iglesias is going to he's going to make up for his.
And if Infante is on the team and healthy, then he's your second baseman.
Absolutely.
So that is what it is. If they want to play him at left field, I really don't have a problem with
Peralta has no right to come in here and demand a job. He lost his job, and he lost it to a guy who plays much better than him.
But is he a better hitter than Perez? Yes.
Yeah.
Is he a better hitter than Santiago? Yes. Is he a better hitter than Tuiasa Sopo? Yes.
And Danny Worth and whoever your backup catcher is going to be, and anybody else.
Well, I would take Pena over Peralta at this point. But
you're not going to play Pena in left field. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're not. Nertz is a fan favorite, but I don't think you can really.
So I really don't have a problem if they want to bring him back in. I think he helps the team as being a bat off the bench. Granted, he hasn't faced live pitching in a long time, so that could be an adjustment.
And I didn't see this coming in terms. I thought he was going to come back, and I think earlier I think that Dombrowski's hand may have been forced a bit with the Tigers where they lost. They kind of had that slump there, and that's when Peralta came back, and now he's going in the instructional league, and I think that kind of forced his hand. I think possibly if they were still on that streak that they had been on, you know what? See ya. Like, thanks for what you did, but good riddance, Mr. Johnny. Good luck finding a team next year as a free agent. You're done here. We don't need you. I know many people have compared this to the Giants last year with Melky Cabrera. The difference was I think a lot of guys in the locker room did not like Cabrera. The Tigers locker room has been a lot more welcoming. I know Pfister kind of had some comments to say about it, but besides that, nobody's really spoken out against Peralta. If anything, it's been support. Especially guys like Torrey Hunter and Cabrera and stuff. So I was expecting him to come back, but be a guy off the bench, late inning guy. I thought, and this is maybe but I thought, if anything, if Tuiasa Sopo wasn't there or Dirks, maybe this Castellanos guy, he has this bat, and people are like...
He's done nothing.
And exactly.
He hasn't earned a roster spot on the playoffs at all.
I would agree, and that's what I'm saying. I think this kind of culminates. I think we're both in agreement here. We have no problem, and especially people are like, morally, you know what? Morals are great, and I live by them, obviously, but
they don't have a place in sports.
You're trying to win a game, you're trying to win a championship, and it's really World Series or bust for this team. Playoff tickets went on sale today, and the Tigers are probably going to be facing Oakland most likely. They're a half game behind Oakland for hosting that, so I think these games are still crucial. And that is, as we wrap up the segment, that's my last question for you, is that we're going to see this last end of the season, basically they just have to tread water to win the division. They're 6 games up with 12 to go. But two things. A, we're going to see Peralta against Miami, right? And we'll like to see him and what he can do. And I mean, we agree. I'd even, if you want to sit, if Iglesias has to sit and Peralta plays the game in short just to get his bat, I'm perfectly fine with that. But he can't expect that in the playoffs.
Yeah.
And then B is, depending on what happens in these games, if the Tigers have a chance to catch Oakland, do you still play Cabrera every day?
I would play everybody every day. It's been done over and over again that the Tigers struggle when they get rusty. Going into the World Series, the past 2 times they've made it, 2006 and last year, when they sit for a week, they don't play well.
Well, and because the thing is Cabrera is clearly still hurt. He labored around second, or I'm sorry, around third.
But I don't think a week off is going to make him better.
Oh, and that's my question. I mean, personally, I want them to still chase because I think that we saw how they did against Oakland in the regular season. What I'm saying is I think that home field advantage could be crucial. It would go to a 5 games. I know last year it went to, and Verlander pitched one of the best games of his career to win that series. But
look how they did against Oakland in the playoffs.
That's what I'm saying. No,
in the playoffs, they beat them every year.
I understand that, but I still think that you can't just say, oh well, we're going to beat Oakland, even if Oakland is home field. You can't just we've got this. I think that's important. I place importance on that. It's going to be they're not doing the 2-3 anymore. It's going to be 2-2-1. And I think it's important for Detroit to try and get. They have a great fan base. They've been there all year. They play much better at home. The record says that. I would like to see them continue to pursue that.
At most, you're going to have 6 games left that wouldn't mean anything. At most. Maybe 7.
Well, that's what I'm saying. If they're chasing
there's only 12 games left. Just play the 12 games like you would any other 12 games.
Okay.
Just do it.
I mean, you don't put any emphasis even on the home
no.
because they're obviously.
I think you have 6 home games left. I would think they'll clinch the division. Their magic number is 7. So if they go 5-1 or 4-2, they need either 2 or 3 losses from the Indians to clinch. I think they probably clinch at home. Hopefully, that would be nice because they haven't clinched at home in a while. They have never clinched the Central at home.
Right. Given they've only won the Central twice.
Right. They clinched in Kansas City once and they clinched in Oakland once. So it would be nice to see them clinch it at home.
Right. And
I think that after you do that, if you only have 2 series left, just play the games. I mean, I don't put any stake in, give this guy this series off. It's only 6 games. If you had a month left, okay. That then you can talk about resting this guy here and this guy there. It's just 6 games. Just play the games. You have a week or you have 5 days off before the playoffs start. Just play the games. That's what I would say. Just play them. And I think the division's done. I mean, I thought it was done for months.
And we said it. The division's over. The chase for Boston, which we talked about on the show, is over.
Yep.
And the chase unfortunately, for Miguel Cabrera to catch Chris Davis is over.
Yeah.
So that's the last thing they can chase. And maybe you don't. I think it's somewhat important.
Yeah, I do. I would, like I said, play the games like you're going to win. Don't rest anybody. Just play and try and get home field advantage. And that is what it is. So the Tigers, like I said, it is what it is. We were never worried, and I think there's even more reason to not be worried now.
Right. I mean, I know that especially you had them winning this division almost 2 months ago, but
2 weeks ago.
Obviously, 2 months ago would have been impressive.
We're clinching in June.
Right, that's 2 weeks ago, and that didn't happen. They had that slump, and like I said, I think that's part of the reason why Mr. Peralta is going to be wearing his uniform in October. But they're going to win the division. The Central shirts will be printed in a couple weeks, in a week or so.
Right.
The hats will be out there. Fans will be excited. I think it's important because that opening series with Oakland, I don't think that's just a given Tigers victory. And I think home field advantage could play into that. Maybe Oakland can make it a 3rd time's a charm, but I don't know. Obviously, I still think Detroit's going to win, but they didn't have the best, regular season showing against the Athletics.
And I don't think that the regular season showing translates. But you can talk sports with us on Twitter at Austin Puckett, at Timothy_Pontzer. You can follow the station at WXOU. You can listen to our past shows on our YouTube account, which you can access through our Facebook page, Sports Talk with Puckett and Pontzer. Wow, I have that down well.
You do.
This has been Sports Talk with Puckett and Pontzer here on 88.3 WXOU.